First, though, to Celtic and huge drama involving the Scottish champions. Brendan Rodgers has resigned after 2 years in charge before an astonishing attack from the club's largest shareholder, Desmond, who has accused Rodgers of divisive, misleading and self-serving behaviour. In another twist, former Celtic boss Martin O'Neill has been named as Rodgers' successor on an interim basis, more than 25 years since he first arrived at the club. We'll have more on that shortly. Well, Brendan Rodgers' final game in charge was Celtic 3-1 defeat to Hearts on Sunday, which left them 8 points adrift of their opponents at the top of the Scottish Premiership. Rodgers won 4 major trophies in his second spell at the club after returning in 2023. Well, just 15 minutes after the announcement of Rodgers' resignation, Celtic's majority shareholder, Desmond, released an extraordinary statement accusing Rodgers of being divisive, misleading and self-serving, creating a toxic atmosphere at the club. Well, Desmond wrote, "When we brought Brendan back to Celtic 2 years ago, it was done with complete trust and belief in his ability to lead the club into a new era of sustained success. Unfortunately, his conduct and communication in recent months have not reflected that trust." So let's go through then some of the key points of conflict that Desmond pointed to in his statement of more than 500 words. Rodgers resigned in the final season of his 3-year deal. The manager claimed he hadn't been offered a new deal. That's something that Desmond called simply untrue, detailing talks over an extension. But here's a reminder of what Rodgers said about his future last month.
I've had sort of informal chats with Dermot and with Michael. I haven't had an offer yet to think over, and until that comes, then I'm not going to be so arrogant to say, yeah, I don't want to be here for another 3 years. The club might not want me. So I have to respect that, and until that happens, until there's something serious on a piece of paper, and then I just continue to do my job.
Well, this was Desmond's response. In June, both Michael Nicholson, the Celtic CEO, and I expressed to Brendan that we were keen to offer him a contract extension to reaffirm the club's full backing and long-term commitment to him. He said he would need to think about it and revert. Yet in subsequent press conferences, Brendan implied that the club had made no commitment to offer him a contract. That was simply untrue. Well, the club's transfer policy in the summer has also come in for some criticism as Celtic have struggled for form and missed out on a place in the Champions League. Well, Desmond insisted Rodgers was central to all the decisions, but just 9 days ago, Rodgers said his squad was like being given a Honda Civic and being asked to drive it like a Ferrari. Well, this is what Desmond said. Every player signed and every player sold during his tenure was done so with Brendan's full knowledge, approval and endorsement. Any insinuation otherwise is absolutely false. And here's a reminder of what Rodgers has said at times about transfers this season.
The big thing we need to look at is the timing of investment. I always think that's really, really important, because that's something I felt that we could have had maybe leading into the game. Then it would certainly give us a better possibility. There's a long process and the weight is on your shoulders when you're here carrying everything. So then when it doesn't quite go the way you want, then of course you have an empty feeling. We all knew what we needed in the summer, and for whatever reason it hasn't. We weren't able to bring that level in.
Well, Celtic's struggles have led to protests from supporters towards the board. Desmond has blamed Rodgers for what he called a toxic atmosphere, claiming his actions have been self-serving. Celtic fans have demonstrated their displeasure with the board this season, most notably bombarding the pitch with balls in a recent game against Dundee. Desmond said, regrettably, his words and actions since then have been divisive, misleading and self-serving. They've contributed to a toxic atmosphere around the club and fuelled hostility towards members of the executive team and the board. Some of the abuse directed at them and at their families has been entirely unwarranted and unacceptable. Rodgers was asked about the supporters' criticism of the board back in August.
What I do know is over many years, sack the board normally means sack the manager. It's normally the manager that goes when that starts to be sung. But no, listen, I think I can only really look at the players that we have here and the performance. We've known for a long time what we've needed as a squad. So I don't want to go into that. I can only concentrate on what we have here.
Well, ultimately, it's led to Rodgers leaving his role after 2 years and 4 months in charge, despite his contract running until the end of this season. After winning the title in April, he said he would 150% stay at the club and reiterated his commitment earlier this season.
I think that I'm still in the same position. I need to, one, earn the right to be here. Of course, I want what's the best for Celtic. People will try and look to find that conflict between me and the board or me and whoever. It really isn't the case. Everyone at this club, from the board to myself, we want the very, very best for Celtic.
Some fans are even worried you may walk before then, considering the situation.
No
Can you
chance.
put their fears at rest?
Yeah, no, absolutely no chance. No chance. We've done that one before. It didn't go down well. So no. Listen, I said from the first day, and there's no hidden messages, and there's no this and that. I said I'd be here for 3 years. I'm here for 3 years.
Well, discussing plans for Rodgers' successor, Desmond said, Celtic is greater than any one person. Our focus now is on restoring harmony, strengthening the squad and continuing to build a club worthy of its values, traditions and supporters.
Brendan, with some of the stuff he's said in the recent past that he wants out of the club. There's clearly been a breakdown with his relationship with the club hierarchy. They've lost quality players in the recent past and haven't replaced them, and I think he felt he wasn't backed. And reading the Desmond statement is very critical of Brendan. And look, in many ways, when there's a relationship breakdown, which there clearly has been between Brendan and the club hierarchy, then it's inevitable something would have to give, and Brendan has ended up walking away.
Well, in Rodgers' first 2 seasons of his second spell at Celtic, he recorded a win rate of 68% or better, winning 2 league titles and 2 cups. This season, Celtic are currently second in the league, having won just over 50% of their matches in all competitions.
Whatever you want to say about Brendan Rodgers, he was a winner. He won 11 trophies, I think, over 2 different spells. Every time he attempted to win the league, he done so. And it's disappointing. He'll be regarded, generally speaking, as a modern-day Celtic hero, in terms of the managerial capacity. But it's just fizzled out. And anyone watching this story knows that Celtic have been in, a fairly high state of turmoil in recent weeks and months. But despite that, it still feels quite jarring, just the way it's arrived, the subsequent statement by Desmond. It's quite a lot to take in at this moment in time.
Well, the comments from Desmond overshadowed another incredible twist. In 7,458 days since Martin O'Neill last led a Celtic team back in 2005, he's back in Glasgow as interim manager, and he'll be joined in temporary charge by one of his former players, the ex-Wigan and Hibernian boss, Shaun Maloney, as they look to turn around the club's fortunes. Well, O'Neill managed Celtic from 2000 to 2005, winning 3 Scottish Premier League titles, 3 Scottish Cups and a League Cup. He also led them to the final of the UEFA Cup in 2003. Overall, O'Neill was in charge of 282 matches, winning over 75% of them, whilst winning 7 major trophies. His first signing at the club was Chris Sutton.
The support will be happy that Martin has come back, because he was loved. In his time as manager there, he turned the tables, and that was his sort of era. Was the beginning of Celtic's dominance in Scottish football. His team were the team which turned the tide, and it was a difficult situation which he took over in the first place. But this will only be a short-term role. I'm pretty certain about that. But he will go in and try and do what he did first time round, and try and galvanise the club, and he'll try and bring sort of the support and everybody, the staff at the club, and the club hierarchy pulling in the same direction. That's what he'll be trying to do.
So A long-awaited return to Celtic for O'Neill, but it's been a long time since his last managerial role anywhere. He left Nottingham Forest over 6 years ago, sacked in June 2019, but it's clear how much he still missed being on the touchline when he spoke to Gary Neville last year.
Do you miss it still badly?
Me? Miss the game? Absolutely. Absolutely. No question about it. I'll miss it forever because that's the game. That's what playing was everything that I wanted to do, and I think hopefully you agree the same or think the same. But management might be the second best thing, but absolutely, yes, miss it completely.
Now, O'Neill takes over with Celtic 8 points adrift of leaders' Hearts at the top of the Scottish Premiership. Hours before his appointment, O'Neill was on TalkSport and he claimed this is Hearts' best chance of winning the title. He said they have shown a great determination. Their record is great at this minute, with Celtic not being as physically as strong as maybe you would want them to be. It is possible Celtic can actually lose games, whereas before they looked invincible in matches. Rangers are no threat whatsoever. They are so far adrift, it's untrue. But this is the moment, this is the time for Hearts. Well, O'Neill and Maloney will take charge of their first game at home to Falkirk in the Scottish Premiership. That's tomorrow night, before a huge game with Rangers in the Scottish League Cup on Sunday. But it's not clear how long they'll remain in temporary charge. Ange Postecoglou has emerged as a potential contender to return to the club. Postecoglou won back-to-back Scottish League titles and the domestic treble before leaving back in 2023. He was sacked as Nottingham Forest manager early this month after just 39 days in charge.
A lot of fans would love to have Ange back again, another hugely successful manager, but I think Celtic have made a bit of a habit in recent times of going back, whether it was Brendan himself, Neil Lennon even. I'd like to see someone like Knutson at Bodo Glimt. He's been doing a great job, and Celtic were supposedly having chats with him a while ago. There's also guys like Kieran McKenna at Ipswich and a few others that have been mentioned, Damien Duff. I'd need to spend a bit of time thinking. As I say, it's all very new at this moment in time. But we'll take Martin O'Neill for now. We're in safe hands there, and we'll see what's next.